As the final buzzer sounded on the Pistons' 2023 season, two die-hard fans, Mickey and Harry, each passed out and witnessed a vision. They were visited by Detroit's very own mascot, Hooper, the stallion ablaze, who told them the only way the Pistons would ever win a championship again was if these two men started a podcast. To be clear, they said, do we really have to do this? I mean, aren't there enough Pistons podcasts already? It seems like this might be overkill. But Hooper dunked on them, right in their face, and said, your team needs you. He presented them with a prophecy. Now it is their duty to help Detroit rise again and become champions. The Order of the Blazing Horse. Welcome back to yet another episode of The Order of the Blazing Horse, your only Detroit Pistons podcast based on a mystical prophecy. I am one of those prophets touched by a horse, not in a creepy way, but in a fortune-telling way, in the future way, in the see the light kind of, in the Joan of behind the arc kind of way, out here in the Midwest Coast. 313-248-734, whatever your area code is. Ludacris knows it. And you know what I know? I'm always joined by my main man, my co-prof, my co-host with the most. I will brag. I will boast. You know who it is.
I'm Mickey Jacobs, Harry, and my juice levels are brimmed extra pulp because we are joined by a very special guest, friend of the pod. Why don't you lay down his intro because you know it by heart?
Oh man, put me on the spot here. He is co-host of the Pistons Pulse podcast. He is the co-host of Game Theory with Sam Vicini. He is a loving husband, teacher, coach, and father of two amazing kids. Also, he is the can I say proprietor or like the head editor, the editor-in-chief of Motor City Hoops?
Hold up. The most ridiculous thing you've called me in this intro is an editor of anything, because what you guys contribute at the Motor City Hoops Substack, which is absolutely free and absolutely incredible, is never edited. You guys literally post whatever you want because their version is better than anything I could come up with. So.
Well, the editing is at your discretion. You edited the choice of having Mickey and I contribute, which thank you for that. It's been very fun, and I swear I'll come up with some content here in the future.
I'm gonna write more stuff too.
It's hot summer. It's a hot summer. What do you expect? But we're joined by Bryce Simon at Motor City Hoops. What up, Bryce?
What's up, guys? I was trying to think if I could do my intro off memory, and I don't know that I could. I still read it off the Google Doc every single episode.
You don't think that your mouth would just take over at this point? You're over 100 episodes.
Like we're closer to 200 than we are to 100 at this point. I'm trying to do it in my head here for a second.
You're thinking too much.
You're muscle memory, baby. Just lock in.
Bryce could hit more threes in a row than he could get words in a row correct.
I feel bad that Harry omitted one of your amazing kids. That's messed up.
It's three amazing kids.
Yeah. It's Royce. The room I'm recording in. He was being a jerk before I started recording, so he doesn't deserve it right now.
Shout out jerk kids. No one love them.
Demoted from amazing to just
miraculous.
Really
just a kid.
Just a kid.
Just one. Two amazing kids plus a third.
And an evicted one.
Plus Royce.
So funny. But Bryce, thank you for joining us, man. We're very happy to have you here. You're in the know. You're in the know on everything NBA, super in the know on everything Pistons, in the know in draft, man. How's life been treating you? How has the end of the season, before we get into what the premise of this episode is, how's the postseason been for you?
It's been good. It's been fun. I mean, I'm glad we had a playoffs to break down and analyze and do video breakdowns on. And, after that, I was so into it. I even moonlighted and continued to follow the Knicks, and the Pistons fan base didn't disown me from that, which I appreciate everybody very much, that I did some work for Knicks Film School. I took a little bit of break from the Motor City Substack. Mickey was the only one pumping out content with an incredible article that you guys should definitely go check out, because, again, it's free, so it's no cost to you other than a little bit of time. And now I'm into the NBA draft. I've been doing some prospects that will be in the Pistons range. And even on Wednesday, as we record this, I dropped my first potential emphasis Pistons offseason acquisition, looking at Jake LaRavia, Might have one dropping tomorrow on a player that we will talk about today. So that will be a nice little what would that combo
segue
there for everybody? Well, also a good segue, but I keep talking, so I just screwed it up.
No, segue from today into tomorrow. That's all fine. Segues are timeless about time. So you're good, dude. You're gravy.
Let me tell you guys, I am more like free on this podcast than any podcast I go on. I'm just like, Harry, Mickey, those are my guys. We're friends. We're just chilling. Like, we're sitting in the backyard, just having a couple adult or non-adult drinks, whatever floats everybody's boat. We're grilling and we're just talking hoops, having fun and laughing. Like, I enjoy this so much. I truly do.
We love that. We love having you. That's the vibe we want to cultivate.
Yeah, we're the commando vibe, and not the military way.
We're putting the cult in cultivate over here.
Bro, that's a quote. Put it on there.
There we go.
So because we brought up the segues, and because we're chilling, and because everything is just straight cash. We're just mad cash. That's what we had to bring you on the show to talk about some mythical creatures. Because not only are we a mystical podcast, we can be a mythical podcast. And there's been so much talk about what the Pistons are going to do in the offseason. They're going to stand pat. What are they interested in? And it sounded like from some reports that Detroit had some interest in Myles Turner and Reid. So primarily players of the big stretch 5 variety, what we know in the community as unicorns, I suppose. I mean, first of all, what would be your definition of a unicorn in basketball?
Stretch big with real rim protection. I mean, like when I watch Kristaps Porzingis healthy, I understand why he got the tag, right? And some people, like at this point in his career where there's always injury stuff and whatever, I can understand why people would push back. But when you see that dude healthy and you see the distance he can shoot the three from, the way he stretches the floor, and then the defensive impact he can have, to me, that is the true unicorn. It's not even karl-Anthony Towns, right? Where we saw firsthand and we saw in these playoffs what he can be offensively, the all-around offensive game. But we know that there's defensive limitations. And, like with Chet, it's going to be there, I think. Victor, I feel like, is like a whole different monster because it's like even more than what's the step above a unicorn?
Like they call him the alien.
The
alien.
They
call him the
alien.
He's out of fantasy and into sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like getting close to the realm of realism.
Yeah. So true. So Kristaps is the immediate name that comes to mind for me.
Okay, I see it. Kristaps for sure is. I mean, his mid-range game is no joke either. The dude can shoot.
That's true. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's a great point.
I remember watching that when Pistons were trouncing Boston live, and I was like, God, just let Kristaps stop. That's all I care about right now. The health is a concern, and it seems to be a concern for all the stretch bigs. So the one that has been linked, or at least was talked about by Mark Stein.
Can I stop you one real quick, Harry?
Yeah.
I don't think Kristaps is an outlandish name like for Detroit, or is he on the list? Am I about to ruin the flow of the show?
No, not at all. And like, I don't think he's an outlandish name either. And I'm interested. To be quite honest, I'm interested in 3 Boston bigs on this team as potential players, which is fine. Although I wouldn't call 2 of them unicorns. One is a stretch, I suppose, but
so I don't think he's super realistic for Detroit. Like, I don't know how they would get to the money on that, and it's a 1-year deal, and he's not a Trajan guy because of the injury history. But the only reason I stopped this was I do think he's a player Boston could trade.
Yeah.
And so I do think he's a guy that could be on the market. For all the Derek White conversation, I think Drew Holiday and Kristaps are the most likely Boston Celtics that are moved this offseason. So as we talk unicorns, if it was like, hey, a 1-year test run, like this is something as we get in this conversation, proof of concept of this archetype with Cade Cunningham is something I would be interested in before you just like sign someone to a 5-year deal and commit to it and trade Jalen Duren to make room. Kristaps would be interesting in that way, although I think the injury history and the $30 million even for 1 year is probably too much to actually make it realistic.
Right. So as far as Detroit being interested in the unicorn, you're more interested in Detroit pursuing a horse with a paper towel cone tape.
Correct. Or one that's like about to like retire or something. Like what? I don't know what happens to unicorns whenever they die or whatever happens. But yeah, I'm more interested in a proof of concept idea, which is why one of the other Boston Celtics is one I'm more excited about than it sounds like the rest of the Pistons fan base is.
Yeah, that being Mickey, you want to introduce that former or current Celtic, I suppose?
Wait, are you talking about Horford?
I'm talking about Horford, yeah.
Yeah, okay. He is 39, 38. Is that thereabouts? But he still played pretty big minutes. How tall is Al Horford? He's pretty big.
I think he's like 6'9", 6'8". There's no way he's over 6'9".
Yeah, but
I mean, that's what we're talking about though. So what would that look like in the Pistons lineup? Like, would that be at the expense of a Tobias Harris? Would this be a backup sort of rotational, like 4 or 5 minutes?
Yeah, so that's how I see it. And like to your point, in terms of minutes, like he averaged 28 minutes last season in 60 games. In the playoffs, his averages actually went up. In terms of playing almost 32 minutes a game for the Celtics. Now, some of that is because of the aforementioned, Kristaps Porzingis and whatever was going on there. I was going to try to pull up, his play-by-play. So the last 2 seasons, according to B-Ball Reference, and I don't think these are always exactly accurate, he's 56-44 split at the 4-5. And so the reason I think he's interesting is he can come in and be the third center role, which I think we found out this year with Paul Reid is important.
Huge. It's huge.
But you could also play him at the 4 off the bench with Isaiah Stewart in some capacity and make that, like, I don't think Horford probably signs up for this role. I think that's where it's more unrealistic is I don't know that he signs up to come do this for the Detroit Pistons, but if I could get him at a very, very, very reasonable 1-year contract, I don't mind adding this archetype of player at all. Now, to be clear, this is not the unicorn. This is not necessarily what we're talking about, right? But just in general of a floor spacing big, I think he would be really interesting for, again, proof of concept.
Okay, but just because we said this is not the unicorn, I think one thing we should get into as far as like unicorns go is in the NBA, unicorns who are available right now, maybe Kristaps, who we already said is maybe out to pasture potentially, but like who knows what the fit would be. Chet, we talked about like a little bit, but he's not going anywhere. And then the real one is Myles Turner, right? But the report on Myles Turner recently is, he's in finals. They want to sign him to a long-term contract.
Big part of what they do,
right? So the unicorn element of Myles Turner for Detroit, I think, unfortunately, is that unicorns aren't real. They're not a real possibility for Detroit because they're not the only guy out of that group they can get is probably Kristaps. And would they even get Kristaps? Like, what would you have to give up to get him? You'd have to probably send out Tobias, just contract matching wise, right? Maybe Tech as well, or maybe do like a sign trade with Tobias Harris. I'm not Tobias Harris, with Tim Hardaway Jr., I assume, right? Which maybe is the thing they'd want. Maybe they want to replace Sam Hauser with Tim Hardaway Jr., who knows? But like the possibility of Detroit landing a unicorn is slim to none at this point. So we got to go to the next best thing. And it does seem like Horford could fit in that realm, and some of the other guys that we're going to talk about could also fit in that realm. So when we're talking about guys like Horford, and you could bring up Brook Lopez in the same regard, these guys are stretch bigs, different size, different like skill sets to an extent, but the role the Pistons would want them to play would be third big, and the chance of them signing up for that is what? Like nothing?
I think the chance for Horford is better because you could argue backup 4 minutes,
right?
Depending on how you like. I do think that is a spot for Detroit in terms of a backup 4. I mentioned like dropping the Jake LaRavia video breakdown on Wednesday today. And like, that is kind of what I foresee for him is that role, depending on how the Pitt team feels about Simone Fontecchio and the season he just had. That's why I think Horford may be more likely or a better, more likely is not the right, a better chance. Brook Lopez is the home run for me. Like if you had a center room of Duren, Stu, and Lopez, it would be sick. But Lopez isn't signing up for that because somebody else is at least going to give him backup center role at the very least, right?
He's
from LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one that makes a ton of sense. So I would love to see Lopez here on a 1-year deal again, just to prove the concept because I'm interested in what you guys think. I feel like everybody says the stretch big is the solution, right? Or is part of a solution or whatever. Like, do you not want to see it a little bit? Like maybe K doesn't work with a pick and pop big. Maybe he's better with the roll lob threat. What if it still doesn't work with the SAR? Oh, I love these smiles. I can't wait for these answers.
Mickey, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I just like wake up in the middle of the night and I recall 2 weeks of Gallinari and Muscala in the midst of hell, and I'm like, it could be so good.
We already have the proof of concept, right? It already happened with those two.
For aging guys who, I mean, one of whom are they both retired now? I know Muscala retired. I don't know if Gallo's still in the league, but that even in those rotational minutes, it looked really good. And a lot of the stuff Harry and I have been kicking around, partially because we're sickos and partially because this is a narrative that keeps flying around in the Pistons circles and outside the Pistons circles, is can Ausar and Duren coexist long term? And the consensus seems to be no. And a lot of people seem to think that Ausar is the one to stick with. So that's sort of where this conversation has been based for us.
My perspective, slightly different, but that's been like our conversation for a while. Do it with the stretch big proof of concept. Yes, Mickey brought that up. We've seen it. It's proof. Also, who doesn't work with Cade Cunningham? Yeah. Literally everybody works with Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is the best like acquisition asset for Detroit that you could possibly imagine, because who wouldn't want to play? He makes everybody better. I mean, he changed the trajectory of Malik Beasley's career. I'm positive about it. So stretch big, lob big, who cares? Like it works. It's fine. I personally am of the mindset that we don't need to shift the center position, because I think Ausar and Duren can play together. I just feel like they've had half a year together, really, or like half a year of competent play together. We're in the same space, and the passing connection is good. Now all we have to do is get them to play. The word that Trajan Langdon was using in his press conference a lot was continuity. You get continuity with these guys. You get familiarity with these guys. What is easier, finding a legit Jalen Duren replacement, or Jalen Duren and Ausar Thompson learning where to be together on the floor? Like, they're already kind of getting there. It's already improving a little bit. Am I really supposed to believe it won't get there at all? Is there no chance of that happening? Is there no chance of Ausar extending his jump shot out a little bit? I know it's like a pie in the sky dream, but whatever. And then Mickey brought this up on the last episode, and I full acknowledgement that this isn't going to happen. But the question, let's ask you about it, because you were on in here to answer about this. And I love this. Jalen Duren's 21 years old, right? Would it really be that crazy to just not even in games, not even like really doing anything, but like just have him start working on the three? Al Horford developed his three late. Bam developed his three late. If he's so young already, and his free throw percentage isn't bad. Like over the season was pretty bad overall, but in the second half of the season, not bad. The beginning of the season, pretty good. Is it that crazy to expect or to say that there's no chance he could develop a 3-point shot if you gave him the opportunity over the next 5 years?
So this is where I feel like my stance on the Duren Ausar thing has been misrepresented, either by myself. Like, I don't know if I went on a podcast and just said they can't work together and Duren should be traded, or if like people just took the way I said it wrong.
Oh, you've been the dog whistle for the dog pound.
Yeah, like people have come, like I feel like people come at me like, oh, like you need to present this and you need to see this. All I say is that part of the Duren extension conversation, this conversation has to be involved. You have to at least consider, do him and Ausar work together long term? Because Ausar is going to be a long-term piece of this organization. And I think there's at least questions offensively on whether or not it does. Even in your defense of it, Harry, I feel like you still alluded to necessary progress and growth. And so that's all I've ever said about it, is it's not perfect right now. It doesn't necessarily work in terms of winning a title in the playoffs, where this team is not at. So it's okay that it's not there yet. I'm just saying it's part of the conversation, because if you don't believe, or if you're like 50-50 on whether or not it works long-term, then that is part of the calculation in a Jalen Duren extension conversation. That's all I've ever tried to present. My thing with the stretch big is I love the diversity of the room then. You have this lob threat in Jalen Duren. You have a completely different archetype that's defensive-minded in Isaiah Stewart. And then, oh, you know what? Actually, let's throw out a stretch pick and pop big for 10 minutes with Cade Cunningham and make you adjust to that now, which is why I think the best way to do it is actually in the draft, even though we have these NBA guys we've talked about.
I'm with it. And that's what I was going to ask is like, because first I want to shift. I do want to get to the draft pick because I think that's like the most interesting and for me the most successful way. But the other name that got brought up with the Pistons is Naz Reid. And I know a lot of people love Naz Reid and they want him there, and they'd gladly trade Duren to make room for Naz Reid. So my issue personally is like just size wise, like what that would mean. And like when you were talking about like you have to expect some sort of progress for Duren and Nassar in order for that to work. My question to you, Bryce, is what are the concessions you make by moving on from Jalen Duren and going for a possible gettable stretch big like Naz Reid?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to spoil too much. I'm going to be a little bit selfish here, guys. I have my Naz Reid breakdown coming on Thursday, and I want people to go watch.
Sure.
But listen, Naz Reid is an insane offensive player. Like it's truly ridiculous. We're not just talking a stretch big with Naz Reid. We're talking a dude that can put it on the deck. We're talking a dude that hit shots off the dribble at a really high rate from 2 and 3, that can hit a floater, that has a post hook, that like hits off screen 3-pointers. The offensive addition would be really fun because you can play him at the 5 where he's a mismatch, or you can play him at the 4 and you can play whatever 5 you want with him. Defensively, it was concerning. And I specifically picked a game where he started at the 5. Everybody, you know who was in the starting lineup with him? Conley was out as well. And Julius Randle was out as well. The starting lineup was Ant, Jalen Clark, Jaden McDaniels, and Nah. Those were the other 4 defenders on the floor with him. Like literally the best defensive lineup you can put around a center in terms of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I still came away with some concerns and with real inconsistencies. So my pushback would be, if people think Jalen Duren is bad defensively at the 5, they're not going to like what they see from Naz Reid at the 5. Now, if you're going to play him exclusively at the 4, it's like, is this guy chasing around people on the perimeter all the time and those type of things? So, I mean, you're giving up some stuff there in terms of that on the defensive end. And even I think I have the per 100 rebounding numbers, and I compare Naz to Duren, Stu, Portis, and all of those. I don't want to give those away right now, but most people would guess that Duren's per 100 rebounding numbers are a touch better than Naz Reid's.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts as a whole for the whole thing, and that's part of the reason that I fail to want to move on from Duren. One, because even if he gets an extension, the money he's going to make, I think, would probably be tradable. Like teams are always big hungry. He's so young. There's so much potential. Even if he gets Claxton money or more, it's not like teams aren't interested at that point.
Can I ask you guys something?
Yeah.
What do you? I'm not asking you what you would pay him because I hate answering that question. It makes me so uncomfortable. What do you think he gets paid? Like what do you think is going to end up being his number?
If he gets extended?
Yeah, if he gets extended. That's a good caveat because there's a certain number that we just don't think he would sign, right? Like we're not going to say 4 for $80 because we don't think Jalen Duren would sign that.
No.
I could see 4 for $100.
Okay.
If he took 4 for $100, I would do it in a heartbeat, to be honest. I'd consider the 4 for 20 or 4 at 28, depending on also what Ivy did. And I'm of the mindset to kind of extend both of them now before one blows up. But I don't know. It could be me. So with Duren, it depends. But 28, depending on other stuff, is where I'd be okay with.
You know what's really funny, and this you mentioned the offseason previews either before we recorded or during or whatever. it's been fun going through that because you realize Mark Williams is in the same boat here and Walker Kessler is in the same boat. And we just recently recorded the Jazz offseason preview. And I told Sam, I said, no, what's kind of fascinating here is which is the first domino to fall? Because one of those guys signing their extension may set the market for the other two. Because if one of those guys gets 25 a year and then these other guys have an argument for being better, well, then that just set their market, right? Or what if one of them takes a low ball offer? What if Mark Williams signs for something outlandishly low or what seems outlandishly low to lock in money because of the injury stuff?
Yeah.
Right. And he's kind of a special case there. Yeah.
What if he's like, you know what? 4 for 75. I'm in. Like, I'm worried about my injury.
4 for 75.
I'm being
for Mark Williams.
I'm being dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, it's so I love those previews because, like, you guys are talking about, like, well, Duren could point to Claxton and say he deserves. He's better than Claxton, but then you've got Zubac on the other end, who's, you know, and that's different because, you know, he was playing with Kawhi and Harden and PG. Crazy.
That Zubac's contract's insane. It's still crazy.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Luka trade where it's like we can't, or even, you know what the other one is? Like, it's the Mikal Bridges trade. We can't use Mikal Bridges to set the market for trade returns, right? Because it just was a ridiculous, like, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Mikal. Like, it's just like it set the market. It's not the right way to set the market. And I think Zubac's contract is the same way. He outplayed it again. And it's just like, if we always hold centers to that number, then most of them are going to be under 20 AAV. And that's not fair. So
with that in mind, like when we're talking about Mark Williams, Walker Kessler, and Jalen Duren, who do you think is worth the most money out of that group of three?
It was funny. So Sam ranked them Kessler, Duren, Williams.
From top to bottom?
Yeah. And I will say, like, Sam really came around on Duren this year, especially in the playoffs. He was very impressed with him in the playoffs, the last 3 games, especially. I'm fine with, I don't know, like, Kessler has just played on such bad, like, his whole time. Like, we at least saw Duren on a winner this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Duren's so much better than Kessler offensively, though.
Yes.
Such more of a threat. Like, Kessler is an elite offensive rebounder, but it's not like Duren is a scrub in regards to that. So, like, to me, that's what it comes down to. I think it depends on what your team would need, right? Like, do you need the bigger defender in Kessler, the rim protection, or do you need that offensive? Because Duren plays an important role, guys, in the Pistons offense.
Sure does.
I highlight that in multiple of these breakdowns, the draft prospects and the offseason acquisitions is, hey, look at this. This is what Jalen Duren does in the Pistons offense in terms of operating the offense from the top of the key.
It's mad impressive. And like when Cade gets double teamed, he can kick it out to Duren as well, who finds short roll like nonstop.
Well,
like,
and some of the lobs he throws. Sorry to go ahead here.
No, you're right. I was transitioning to you. I was lobbing to you.
Let's just alley that shit. So I mean, Cade is called Duren his favorite big in the league. I think as interesting as a pick and pop threat would be for Cade and what little we've seen from it, it looks awesome. But the lob game is such a part of what he does. And just like even Duren talking about how Cade's like, Duren was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just throw it up there. I'll go get it. And we've seen it a million times. My hope is that like a 4 for 25, like something in that range would be Duren is kind of like banking on himself to prove that, like, you know, after that contract, he's like, what, 25, 26?
Yeah.
So he could then turn around and potentially ask for more. But I think it's almost like, not exactly like Malik Beasley, but I think Duren's value to Detroit and Detroit's value to Duren might be better than what he might get elsewhere. I don't know that Duren's going to average a double-double playing for someone who's not Cade. And I don't know that Cade's going to play as well with a big who can't just like jump out of the gym and go grab whatever he throws up when he's in trouble.
It's funny you say that because my defense, I'm not trying to defend Walker Kessler, he's working with a little bit different of a guard room than Jalen Duren is. So I don't know what Walker Kessler could look like playing with Cade Cunningham, but that plays right into your point, Mickey. If you're Jalen Duren and you're not getting traded to the Lakers to play with Luka, who's going to maximize you, or the Hawks where Trae Young could maximize you in a similar way. I'm not saying he's the same player as Cade, just offensively running
facilitators.
Yeah, facilitators. You know, as much as Pistons fans hate him, Tyrese Halliburton, whoever, like this is a really good spot for an archetype of big like Jalen Duren, to your point. I think it's a great point, and maybe leverage the Pistons have to keep that number a little bit lower by $1 million or $2 million.
That would be my part of my reason to want to extend him. It's like, I do think the options outside of him are just as risky, if not more risky and unknown. They're also all older. On top of it, like JD's age it has to be taken into consideration.
Sure.
When you talk about him and Walker Kessler and like, all right, Kessler, maybe his offense could get better. Who knows? Duren, we're seeing the offense get better. And we literally watch the defense go from bad to kind of statistically decent, like arguably good at some point. So it's nice to see that. And the other thing, two things I noticed big from Duren, just so much growth this year overall. Like his shot is getting a little bit further out. The moves are getting a little bit further out from basket. It's like inch by inch. Yeah. But the two biggest changes that I noticed in him this season, outside of like the defensive improvement, was one, his pick setting is far superior. Not nearly as many offensive like screen fouls coming out. And that's enormous for Cade Cunningham. And number two, last year against bigs like Jonas Valanciunas and Steven Adams, he'd get bodied up. And this year, he's not getting moved around anymore. He's just getting bigger and bigger and sturdier and sturdier. And he just has the potential to be higher defensively. So, like, it's working out. They have a connection. If you can get him for $425, that's not an end of the world contract. Like, another big you could look at potentially acquiring is Domantis Sabonis, who's arguably a better passer, right? He's a better rebounder, better scorer, but way more expensive and not a great playoff history, but he does have the ability to stretch the floor a little bit. Would you be anti a trade for Sabonis?
Yes. This is a name that I'm not interested in. Like, this isn't this isn't my archetype of big. There's a couple archetypes that terrify me. And whenever somebody compares a player to Nikola Jokic as a draft prospect, it terrifies me. Because I'm like, that's a super high-end outcome that if you don't reach, what are you? Because if you have to be the hub of the offense, but you're not Jokic level, and you could be a little bit less. Like, I'm still kind of in on Alperen Şengün. And, like, the thing with Şengün is he's better defensively than Sabonis, like, is part of that. And then the other one is Draymond Green. Like, if you're giving me this player's archetype is Draymond Green, I'm instantly a little bit nervous because, like, those are just. So I'm good with Sabonis. I was like, I'm okay. Like, is he better than Jalen Duren defensively?
No, I think defensively he's not better. Offensively, he is better. But yeah, that's essentially the question with these guys is like, I get it. People have qualms with Duren. He can't stretch. There's questions about him and Asar. But my real question is, then who?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Who do you replace him with? Because don't tell me there's a problem. Not give me a solution.
And don't give me Isaiah Stewart. I love Isaiah Stewart more than anybody. Pistons fans finally like him because he's coming off the bench in the role he should be coming off of the bench in that role. Like, that's his role. Finally.
I don't think there's a big constituent of Pistons fans who think he should be starting anymore.
No, I don't think so either. I feel like sometimes it's like, oh, it'll be okay. We'll just start Stu. And it's like, no, like, just keep him off the bench.
Yeah. Okay. So with all that in mind, as far as this unicorn or this stretch big opportunity, you brought this up before, but you think the draft is the best opportunity to get your third change of pace big. Do you think that happens? And if so, who are your guys? I know you've done some previews on them already. They've already dropped, so we can advertise those big.
Yeah, so I mean, Maxime Raynaud, at this point, I think everybody knows that is my guy in this draft, specifically, for the Pistons. I don't think he should last to 37. I don't know if he will last to 37. I have said that I would be willing to trade up for Maxime Raynaud depending on the cost. Like, I'm not giving up a future first-round pick or something crazy like that, right? But if it took an extra second or something like that to get up back to the end of the first round or the very, very top of the second or something like that, I think he's really good for one. And I think he is like again, I mentioned it earlier with Lopez, but if you told me they go into next year with Duren, Stu, and Maxime Raynaud as their center rotation, that's your third big. Those are your three guys. I would love that because you have a little bit of everything. He's an older prospect in terms of what we're used to. So I think he's a little bit more NBA ready. And like he truly plays off the ball. That's one thing I really, pinpoint and really hone in on the video breakdown of him. So Maxime Raynaud is the first name there.
So 2 concerns or questions about Maxime.
Sure.
1, can he be a lob threat? And 2, have you considered the PTSD that Pistons fans have surrounding French prospects?
Sacre bleu.
1, no, like that's not gonna be his thing. 2, this is different. He's 7 foot. He's not number 7 getting picked at 7.
Got it.
Oh, I guess it goes deeper than that, huh? I always
Sekou.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, my bad.
There's growing up as a French person in Michigan, there's a lot of negative energy that's always been directed at the French. It's so crazy. Like it's just so wow. I used to play baseball with like historic baseball. Shout out Ladi Daz. And one of the like older guys in the team, he's like, "Your mom's from France." France. And I was like, France what? Can you point France on a map, my man? Like, get out of here.
I took a little bit of shot at this in the Pelicans offseason preview because they have, anybody want to guess what pick?
Are they 8th? No, that's Washington. Are they 7th?
And who is a decision maker with the New Orleans Pelicans now?
Uh-oh. We got Troy
Weaver. And so I told Pelicans fans, like, hey, don't worry. The last time Troy Weaver in his first year with an organization was making a decision about the number 7 overall pick, it worked out grand. So
I feel like I've been in the minority in defense of the front office in New Orleans. Also, New Orleans has a difficult hand at the moment, like really rough stuff.
Yeah,
them. I would honestly maybe blow it up if I were them, but it's
except for Trey Murphy. They should not. Trey Murphy is really
and Herb,
right?
Yeah. If Detroit could get Trey Murphy on the other hand, then blow it up and send him to Detroit.
Okay, can we sidebar
Yes.
Trey Murphy because I love Trey Murphy, and I think like 2 summers ago there was some summer run footage of Cade playing with Trey Murphy in the backcourt with him, and it was so sick. Injury history a concern or just run it?
No, I mean, but again, who knows it better than Trajan, right? Like, I mean, if Trajan felt comfortable with it, and it seems like Trajan is very aware of games played and being available as a important aspect of how he builds a team. And so like that would be one of those, if Trajan did make the move, I would just assume he understands what that injury history is and he's comfortable with it moving forward. Trey is one of the players that if we're truly available, I would consider moving actual assets. I'm not paying. Now they're going to ask for a premium that I would not be willing to pay the premium, but him and Jaren Jackson Jr. are the 2 names that I would be a little bit interested in, at least like entertaining those conversations. I don't think either is actually available. And I think both would take way more than what I'd actually be comfortable with.
Triple J is our like pie in the sky. Like that's the ultimate.
It fits everything, right? He fits the defensive identity and he becomes the number 2 option that we always talk about.
Plus Michigan ties. He went to Michigan State. Like, it all just makes sense. Let's pivot. We got to pivot foot down. We went from unicorns to Trey Murphy and now to Jaren Jackson Jr. and the power forward situation. I saw an article written by, I'll figure out who the person is and I'll give him a shout out at some point. But
Mickey Jacobs wrote it on the
who knows? It's somebody
I don't
covers
think it's this article.
No, it's somebody who covers Memphis. And they were outlining essentially the path of what Memphis should do. And reading between the lines, it seems like the only chance Detroit or any team really would have of getting Triple J is if he failed to reach an extension this offseason. First domino already fell with the All-NBA non-make, right?
Yep.
So like, and also Memphis is in a weird place with how good the West is, how underperforming they are, how expensive they are. So the question they have now is like, the person alluded to, this should be the person they re-sign. They should re-sign Triple J. But if they fail to do so, then they play out the season. His contract is up. at the end of the next season. So what do? You have to make a move for him at like the deadline, essentially. What would be your cost for going after him, or what your price? What would you pay for him?
I love this because now I have the deadline to get more data on Jaden Ivey, on Ron Holland, and those type of things. Okay. So with Triple J, I actually like Duren's fit with Triple J. That makes a lot of sense because Duren's rebound, yes, it counteracts what Triple J is able to do. A couple, like, am I willing to give up on two of the young guys? I think that's the main question. Like, essentially be Ivy and Holland and picks. Don't you think it would take at least that would be kind of this Ivy, Holland, and then you negotiate how many picks?
Potentially, but like I don't know if it would take like that many, because when I think about it, I think about essentially if he hasn't come to an extension, that
they've
means
lost some leverage at this point.
A ton. It's like looking at the Pascal Siakam situation. Although Siakam seemed more willing to come back to Toronto, in Indiana got Siakam for Bruce Brown, 3 firsts, and a player whose name I can't even remember. Like, that's not that expensive for that guy. So they failed to reach an extension. That means it's not going great between the two. So you've lost leverage. What can you get the haul you'd get for him now? Probably not. So it might take Ivy 3 first-round picks, Ron Holland 3 first-round picks, but maybe not all of that, right?
I mean, it would probably come down to at that point you're probably bidding against other teams is what's going to raise the cost. Is
who wouldn't want?
You are going to have to pay him, and like this would be kind of a little bit of the all-in move for Detroit, right? Because now you have Cade Cunningham on the big extension. You're going to extend Asar that next offseason. You've already extended Duren to $25 million or whatever the number is, and now you're about to pay Jaren big money. You would have to feel confident that Cade, Jaren as your 2, Asar, Duren, and then fill out the roster is the path to competing in the East. I'm not saying you can. I actually think that roster is really interesting.
That would rip, yeah.
Assuming we see the growth from Asar that we all expect, and you would still have either Ivy or Holland on the roster as a young player to either fill out the starting lineup or destroy second units or whatever, right?
Right.
So that would be interesting to me. And again, I like it the deadline because 50 games into the season, I'm much more comfortable making a decision on Jaden Ivey, especially, and even a decision on Ron Holland at that point.
Right. In like the second point of it all, as far as like the money stuff goes, it's not even as expensive as it could be. Like between JJJ and Cade, yeah, that's expensive. But Duren at 25 and Asar, who will not be making like super max money or max money because of offensive deficiencies, right? Like pretty solid, pretty available in the grand scheme of things. Mickey, what would you feel about said deal? I know he's your dream guy. What would you be willing to give up for Triple J?
I think something like that makes sense, and that's actually a chip shove I'm down for because of timeline. He's 25 years old now. Like that's actually like a sustainable, like some of these names, like, I mean, we talked to our buddy Doug, who's a Knicks fan, and he's like, I think the Pistons should go after KD or Joel Embiid. Like he just sees Cade ascending and is like, now's the time. And like, I think we know, first of all, I don't think we're fearful that that's going to happen just because it's ridiculous. And I think like from everything Trajan has said, he wants sustainable, long-term winning, like, years of this, not just like, oh, we had our little window and, that guy's expiring now. Who's going to come in the rotating, aging star door? So I'm game for that. Like 2 stars or 2 young pieces plus 2 firsts or one piece plus. And like, I also want the data, like you said, like so much of this depends on like, what does Ivy look like? How representative were those first 30 games of, and that's why next season is really exciting. On the other end, like just to shift it to another 4 or 5, I'm interested. What are your thoughts on Santi?
So I'm not as high on Santi as like being a starter, but like bringing him into the Al Horford-ish type thing, right? Where he can play a little bit of that. Like Santi can probably, like, I'd be interested to see what B-Ball Reference says in terms of if he's played any minutes at the 3 even for them. Like there's just real versatility there. They're such an interesting team. in terms of, it's only like 7% last season. So not very much. Most of it's at the 4, 75-25 almost. I'm not as much a Santi fan, but bringing him for like the backup role, I guess potentially the heir apparent to Tobias at the 4, I would listen to that, right? If there was a possibility of that. But he's a good player. Like, he probably didn't get enough. Like, I feel like his Grizzlies fans would yell at me whenever I didn't mention him enough for a 6-man of the year conversation.
But you're speaking of former Grizzlies forwards. You're more LaRavia than you are Aldama right now. In that role.
I think LaRavia is a very underrated defender. If you haven't watched the video breakdown yet, it is out, and I will spoil this one. I watched 2 games from I've watched more than that, obviously, but for this breakdown, I watched 2 games. In those 2 games, he guarded everybody from Nikola Jokic to Andrew Wiggins to Buddy Hield to Jamal Murray. And I'm not saying that like he was a Jokic stopper. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, I'm not like Jake LaRavia, all first team NBA defense, right? But it's like, I really value matchup versatility, guys. And a guy that you could say, hey, you're our starting 4, you guard Jokic so Duren can play off and roam. Or, hey, we can switch you on to Jamal Murray and you're going to hold up. Or you chase Buddy. Like, think about the archetypes of those players, let alone the size. He went from guarding Jokic, where he's just like fighting his ass off to just like not get buried, to in a different game, he's chasing Buddy Hield off 3 screens like he's Steph Curry, because Steph wasn't playing in that game. So I really like that. And if LaRavia knocks down threes, he passes really well. He moves off the ball. There's a really fun rebounding, assist, and 3-point percentage stat in the breakdown that I'm not going to spoil because I really am proud of it. So that is what we call teasers in the business. But
I'm intrigued. I'm going to watch it.
Here's the other thing. I think LaRavia would be cheaper, guys. Like, yeah. I mean, Memphis kind of screwed him in terms of his leverage this offseason. Sacramento can only pay him 5.1 or whatever it is. I think Detroit could easily get him on $7 or $8 million, 3-year deal, let him come up, play a perfect backup role. And then if he really pops, he's Tobias's heir apparent.
On that deal too, like if you can get him on that deal to be the best player, like insane, like that's really good. Unless the star is going to be the replacement there and eventually Ron Holland. Yes, and because Ron Holland, I know this is another like 4 candidate that was brought up. Mickey brought this up, and then we heard you guys talking about it on Game Theory too. Just crazy coincidence. But PJ Washington, people love the idea of PJ Washington, and then we looked into it. Ron Holland and PJ Washington are the same height. Like,
I never give Ron enough credit for how
Ron's 2 inches taller than
right.
PJ. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's because he's skinny. It's because he's a little kid.
Right.
Yes.
No shade to Ron Holland. He's a little kid. I saw you destroy your video game controller, Ron. You can't tell me you ain't a little kid. Playing Warzone. I follow you on Instagram stories. Also, shout out to Ron Holland. His pit bull puppy is named after a character from a great anime show, Death Note. If anybody watches, very fun. But like, if you're telling me Ron Holland's not going to put on like 20, 30 pounds by the time he gets 20, he's going to be a monster. Like, and if you have him and Sar as your 3-4 at that point, sick. Like,
that is Wes's argument is always that, like, and I know Keith Black Trudeau, I don't mean to put words in people's mouths, but I'm pretty comfortable saying like I think both of those guys' vision is those 2 guys. Like that's your 3-4. And you probably have matchup versatility in terms of like, okay, a guy's a little twitchier. Okay, Asar, that's your matchup. If Ron puts on some weight, okay, the guy's a little bigger. Okay, Ron, this is your matchup, etc.
The crazy thing about that is that could be 3-4, it could be 2-3, it could be 2-4. Like, honestly, and then you have Cade as your 6'6" point guard. Like, let's say one of those guys becomes your 2, then you have like the monster that's Asar at 6'6", who plays bigger than 6'6". You have Ron Holland at 6'8" or whatever he is, like, and beefy, and then you have Cade at 6. That could be a huge room, like just absolutely huge. And that's kind of what I love about Trajan is his affinity for wings, and that's kind of why I would rather the focus be on like your 3 through the 3-4 position at this point. Both may in the draft, if they get the stretch big, great. But as far as free agency goes, keep building. Like, just keep building these guys as far as it goes. And I'm geeked about it. I would love to have LaRavia as part of that rotation as well. Like, just
Yeah.
Wing out. Go crazy on the wings.
Yeah,
And
wing it, baby. It's just got to be the summer of Vincent though, because man, if any of these guys could just up their three ball a little bit, oh my god. Because I love that vision. I love that vision. It's and this is a very pro Ron podcast. We're
Ron.
very excited about Ron. But yeah, there's growth. There's growth areas.
Absolutely.
So if just because we have you on, you're like a draft expert guy. If the Pistons were in the draft to pursue upping the wing room, because we're on the topic of 3s, 4s at this point. Also, one quick thing I want to say about JJJ: if they wait to pursue him, teams like Houston or potentially OKC, even like New York, teams looking to make a big move this offseason, their chips might be gone at that point. And then who are you really competing with for JJJ? Because the people whose contracts up next season, it's not as many. It's like Kyrie, Luka, JJJ, and maybe Harden. It's not like hot.
Austin Reeves will turn down his player option.
Sure, but I don't think of him in the same light as those guys personally.
No, sure. I was just saying like guys that names that people will recognize.
Right, absolutely. So it's just that would be my argument to not make a big move in this offseason for somebody. Is like let other people do that and then wait for somebody who could fit this team a little bit better if he becomes available, depending. Regardless. Okay, moving into the draft. If there were a couple of wings that you had your focus on for the Pistons to get to be part of this wild 3, 4, even 2 rotation, who's your eye on?
Yeah. Oh, I'll give one other big real quick. I'm not as high, but Ryan Cockbrenner, and some people think he's going to have the ability to stretch the floor as well. I will give you a name that I actually came away higher on after I did my work for Motor City Hoops video breakdown. Alex Tui out of the NBL, and we just mentioned Jake LaRavia. Tui actually reminded me a lot of Jake LaRavia, just in terms of like this versatile offensive player. You got to make sure the shot is going to go. Like the percentages are interesting enough. He's not a non-shooter in the Asar Ron category, but there could be some inconsistencies. And then again, versatility on the other end of the floor. So Tui is a really interesting name, a little bit smaller, but I would consider these guys off ball at the very least. Chaz Lanier is a guy I know that they have brought in and worked out. He is just like a floor spacer. Kobe Brea, same thing. Like those are 2 interesting names in terms of the defense was a little bit better with those guys, but they're going to probably be negative defenders in the NBA, but they provide real floor spacing on that end of the floor.
These are interesting names in terms of draft picks. They're also just interesting names. Alex Tui, Chaz Lanier. I don't want to get distracted on that. In
Shout
terms
out to
of
names,
Chaz Lanier, I love that. In terms of like other potential third bigs, just like around the league, like are there any other names that interest you, like a Kyle Filipowski or a Jalen Smith? Like even seeing the minutes that Thomas Bryant has had for pace, like spot minutes, like are any of the, or like again just draft?
Yeah, so interesting. Jalen Smith was one that interested me before in past years. Bobby Portis, depending on what he does with his player option, I'm kind of interested in. Too much money?
The money is going to be crazy for Portis.
Yeah.
Like
I also don't know if he'd want to be a third big.
But he can play at the 4. So again,
right. That's
like,
right.
That's where
20 minutes.
God, the center market's not great in regards to that. Like a guy I like, but I think is a little bit redundant in Detroit is Day'Ron Sharpe. He played, he's a backup for the Nets. Yeah. He's a restricted free agent, but I mean, that's just if like, hey, we love this archetype of Jalen Duren, and so we're just gonna. But if we're looking at something that's a little bit different, I don't think he makes as much sense. In the draft, I mean, I mentioned Cockbrenner, like that's probably the name. Janai Broom may have a little bit of that, like 4-5 versatility. So I don't know that there's any other names that I really love.
The big that I like, that I know they're not going to get, but he's not a stretch big either. But oh my God, how am I blanking on his name? All right, he's Boston's like second or third. Big.
Luke Cornett.
Luke Cornett, thank you. Like if he was willing to be a third big here, that would be insane. Just because I like the idea of massive size. Just watching Paul Reid last year, defensive disruption was awesome, but I also felt like he got bullied a fair share as a big. And if you can just be there to stop it out, great. and he doesn't turn the ball over. I'm big into the non-turnover situation.
Sure. I wonder if he just ends up in Boston and gets like a bigger role this year if they trade Kristaps, and then if they don't bring Horford back, like he ended up being. And I think there's a lot of reports out there like he just loves Boston, like whether the organization or whatever it is, he loves being there.
He's seen as Boston. He is big Boston Green River.
If you took a black and white photo of Luke Cornett, you would buy that like, oh yeah, this is one of like from the 70s team. Like, this is a classic Celtic.
Luke Cornett only comes in sepia tint.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but rumor, something that's been floating around. Malik Beasley claims that he can get Lauri Markkanen. They have a history. What do you think that would take? Is that in any way realistic? Is this worth talking about?
Are you interested? As the other part?
I mean, so it's funny. We had this conversation the other day on Game Theory because we did the Utah Jazz offseason preview. We didn't talk about Detroit. Well, we did talk about Detroit a little bit. I think I'm too low on Lowry right now. He had 2 incredible seasons, and then this last year was not as good. And so this is why I only have 2 kids. As you can see, the third
Royce in the cut,
rummaging in the background because
it's his room. I was just gonna say,
and he's waiting to go play outside, which he's not allowed to do
on the yard. We'll get into it.
I know. So
make that quick. Yeah.
I think what they would want is too much for what I'd be willing to pay for Lowry. I think is ultimately
that tax.
And the contract is quite hefty for him as well. Like he's already gotten the big deal.
The defensive numbers aren't great either.
Yeah.
The assist numbers aren't great.
I don't want to discount him, and I think he would thrive as the second option with Cade. It's just like if I'm going to make that move, I want a little bit more of a two-way guy like Cade or something like that. I think I'm probably okay based on what it would take.
Mm-hmm. I've said it to Mickey plenty of times. I'm more in on KD than I'm in on Lowry, and especially at the prices I'm seeing for KD at this point. But
just a 1-year rental, just like bring him in for a year, and then maybe after that you'll see.
Honestly, I'd consider giving a max at 2 years afterward, depending on like how it all went, just if it worked out well. Because even when he's done and retired, Cade will still be 25 or something. So then you just have your opportunity to reset, just to see. Because again, pretty big. I know the health is like a thing, but the dude can shoot, and it's not like he's ever going to stop shooting. He's just like one of the all-time greats, and he has championship experience. That's like another thing that I prefer about him to Lowry. Like, what's Lowry's playoff experience? And, what's KD's? It's good.
He has championship experience with the greatest team ever assembled.
Well, sure, but he was also
no asterisks. If we did a 2-year max and he brought a chip to Detroit, like legacy sealed.
He made it to the finals with OKC.
That is what's interesting. Is just like the state of the East is always part of this equation, right? And like, I'm not worried about. Like, they need to go all in sooner rather than later. Now that we see that Cade is an all NBA level player, I don't think you have to do it this offseason, but I can understand people who say, hey, Cade is ready and the East may be in shambles next year to where like you could have a chance to go ahead and go after something.
Here's the other question though, with that, as far as the team goes, let's say the Pistons had beat the Knicks, which is very fun, very funny. Extra guess. What up, Doe? If the Pistons had beat the Knicks, which was a real possibility, it's not like they were out of that series by any stretch of the imagination. Could they have beaten Boston? They could have. They play hard defense. Boston wasn't shooting the three all that well. It's definitely in the realm of possibility. So how close is Detroit, just as this team, to being a contender? I think you could have a pretty good argument that like maybe they'd be tired at this point, but now with this 1 year of playoff experience and a year of continuity, maybe this team is closer to title contention than we want to give them credit for.
It's a fun conversation, right? Because it's hard to wrap your head around a team that won 14 games 13 months ago might actually be able to compete in even a watered down Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? It's just it's hard to go there that fast and not feel like they're somehow skipping steps. I think that's what scares people, including me, is like, don't skip steps, right? Like, it seems like there's a process to this, and trading for KD seems like you're almost skipping steps. but I don't know that that's a great argument against it, right? Like I'm not sure that I've workshopped it enough to know that I fully agree with that.
I mean, just to argue the skipping step, you could argue that they skipped a step in the negative direction because of the previous season, and that it kind of was fool's gold, whatever the opposite of fool's gold is, like fool's poop, fake poop. It was a fake vomit, fake poop situation. They got it from Spencer's
gag gift.
The gag gift season is what it is. So, like, who knows? And the team looked real last year. Like they looked real competitive. It didn't seem like, wow, these are kind of fluky wins. We're getting lucky.
Sure.
It's just like they're playing a very fast paced, high defensive level basketball. With one of the smartest players in the NBA, like really turning a corner while their second best offensive player was out for pretty much the majority of the season. Like maybe this team wasn't as bad as all that. And it was just like a question of the pieces were jumbled, but they weren't. A couple of the pieces that were missing were really the glue that hold it all together. I mean, you can look at the games that Tobias Harris was out and they didn't do very well. Sure. Maybe Tobias is like way more important than we want to give it credit for. Maybe just these little role players are helpful in that whole regard.
Yep.
Okay, so we're almost at an hour here, or I guess we're over an hour at this point. And Bryce, we love talking basketball about you, and we love listening to your podcast stuff. And one thing that we've picked up from some of your other podcasts, mainly from the Pistons Pulse, is that you're a big yard guy. Someone say you're king of the hill, a little Hank Hill in you.
Lawnman.
So one of the things that we do here, as you know, we have fun. We play some games out of basketball at this point, but we want to play a little game with you called NIMBY or YIMBY.
Get off my lawn.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I did put the "Get Off My Lawn" Gran Torino in there. Bryce, I know you're not that angry or anything like that, but we know you're very specific about your yard. So we're going to have a checklist. You tell us what is appropriate for the yard, what is not appropriate for the yard. Mickey, you want to kick us off here?
Yes. Swing set.
NIMBY. Because where they swing kills the grass.
But
okay.
No. It happened in my partner's yard. I could go take a picture right now. No, there is no debate. It's literally across the street.
We tried, Royce. We tried.
Swing set's so great, though. It's where you can have your first kiss. It's where you can challenge people to a fight after school.
Do it on the school grounds, not in my yard.
It's a NIMBY. It's a NIMBY, Harry. Don't give him the option if you're gonna. All right.
Okay. How about croquet?
YIMBY.
Ooh.
Wait. What game is that? Is that where you have to stick the thing?
Yeah, the mallets.
But they come out. You can pull those out.
Yeah.
Okay. YIMBY. You can play that. I'll allow.
Okay. Happy to know that. Off with his heads. Off with the swing sets.
Little Alice in Wonder, little Carol reference. It's always got to go there.
Sweet Louie.
Cornhole.
Yes, just because I like to play.
It's a YIMBY.
Oh,
it's a YIMBY.
Fat boy Bryce in the house.
YIMBY for cornhole, but I could tell it was a hesitant yes.
Yeah,
for the sake of the grass.
Yeah.
Your eyes say no. Your facial hair says yes.
Yeah, I do like to play some cornhole.
It's fun.
I would try.
He's a shooter.
I would try to encourage it to be played on the cement on the back patio
next to my backyard.
But if we were forced, if our only option to play was in the grass, I would allow it.
Okay,
I like it.
Touch football.
I have given in to the Rugrats on the block to touch football games, and I do not like it. I can literally feel the indentions they make from touch football, baseball, all of these games that I love and support them playing, but it makes me so mad. It truly does. And they're not allowed to play in the front yard, only the back.
Front's for show.
Yeah, front is for show. The back, it's like, okay, it's not going to look quite as good, so people aren't going to see it as much.
Got a mullet.
Well, it always starts as touch football, but then, things get a little... bird bath or fountain?
Nah, I'm good.
It's a NIMBY.
So no? I like them, but then like you have to maintain them. You have to weed eat around them. Like it messes up my lines as I'm mowing. I don't want stuff in the middle. I don't want stuff in the way.
He's not a birder, Harry.
You don't have the Merlin app?
And all the birds do is poop on stuff and then leave stain. Like, no, I'm good.
Oh, I'm
These are
super into
factors.
birds right now.
He's
Big into it.
very bird pilled.
I'm very Harry Bird. Call me Harry Bird at this point. Very bird pilled. But I also I think my lawn is a little bit more nature heavy than I'm assuming your lawn is. But it's wildlife galore out here. I'm all for it. Okay. So no bird bath. How about a livestock bath? How about like a horse bath? One of those big metal tubs. No.
It's a NIMBY. That's a NIMBY.
You can ice in there after a podcast.
He's not plunging. He's not plunging.
No.
Gnomes.
No, those are weird.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Any weird experiences with gnomes?
I just think they're creepy, like gremlins and all of the other little things that are just like,
yeah.
I don't know. No, I'm good.
It is gremlin adjacent.
Yeah.
Finals watch party with a projector in the backyard.
No. I don't want to watch the finals with other people. Like I want to watch it by myself.
Is that also
in the dark?
Yeah, like I got to record game theory as soon as the game's over. How am I supposed to take notes if there's people trying to talk to me and stuff?
Is there any sporting event that you watch with other people or enjoy watching with other people?
No.
Okay.
Because I know football gets very heated and very emotional for you. So
yeah, I watch Chiefs games solo. I haven't watched a football game with somebody. Here's the problem with this. Like I almost don't watch as a fan anymore. Any basketball game ever. I'm always evaluating and analyzing and all of that. And in some ways it's sad, but I love my work, so it's not. But my wife actually said that to me the other day. She was like, "Do you ever just watch for fun? Like, do you ever just?" I was like, "No, I have to take notes. I have to be ready to talk about it. I have to be ready to analyze it. So I can't do that in a crowd of people. They'll be distracting, and then I'll end up being a jerk to them, and they'll get mad at me."
It's rough. That's rough. I get it though. Same way with comedy out here. That's why I don't do comedy anymore. Totally not fun.
Well, yeah, sometimes you dip your toe back in the old not bird bath, of course. But
the livestock bath, which I do have, and which does rip. I use it after historic baseball games. I just fill that thing up with ice, lay in it, take in the sun, watch the birds in my yard, let the dogs roam around. I got an old achy body. I need it.
Dogs are another thing that is a NIMBY if it's not on the list.
Oh, they're one of the list. Dogs are a no?
It wasn't on the list. Wow.
Yeah, they poop in the grass and kill it.
You can pick it up.
I don't want to have to pick it up. So the neighbor's dogs poop in my grass right now, and it really pisses me off because they're not even my dogs.
Do they pick it up?
No, I pick it up.
Okay,
that's not cool. That's not cool. All dog owners should pick up after their dogs. It's crazy.
It's also easy. It's so easy. You're there. You're watching the dog.
No, I think they just like their dogs either get out or they let them out to roam a little bit on the block. And then they just choose my grass for whatever reason. And
because you make it look so
nice. It's inviting. All right. What do we got here?
How about non-grass plants?
Not in my yard. Like I have landscaping.
Okay.
Like we have landscaping in front of the house. My wife has some hanging plants and and stuff like that. We actually have some really impressive hostas. They are like huge and they're taking over all of the other plants.
Hostas get enormous.
Yeah, these things are crazy.
We had our dogs tore some up, but like we have one surviving right now that's like we're talking like Seymour, feed me, like that sort of big plant.
Audrey too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're on it. Little Shop of Horrors style hostas, but that's cool. Hostas are nice. Is it perimeter? Are you a perimeter plant guy or any in the center? Any beds in the center?
No. Again, that messes up my mowing.
Okay, you need the lines.
He's got the expanse, the lines.
Yeah.
So to that point, are we having a catch? Or is that that's fine? That's a YIMBY.
You mean when I mow?
No. Like
what's a catch?
Like with Royce, for example, like throwing the ball.
Oh, playing catch. Oh, yeah. That's okay because there's not a whole lot of running involved in that. So that is the one activity that is more than okay.
Tread lightly on the grass.
Yeah.
What Royce has done recently though is played baseball in the back, and he'll take the stupid bat and like do what MLB players do, where they tap the home, like they hit home plate. And then I can there's like a little bit of an indention from where he does it.
Digital ain't real. You got
what I don't allow is
sounds like a power hitter to me.
He's something. What I don't allow is I try to keep them off right after it rains or like my sprinkler system runs, because like I don't want them on it when it's like wet. It's like super wet and stuff like that.
The softness of ground.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I get
exactly.
it. Yeah, I used to keep a net up in my backyard. I have one baseball thing called like I can't even remember what the name of it is, but whenever I'd swing, I would just like dig massive holes in our yard. And I was like, I got to go do this in the bad part of the yard. And then I got a giant net for disc golf practice, and that was just tearing divots all over the place every time I plant my foot down.
It's footwork.
Yeah, it's all about the footwork. So I had to put that on some concrete. I get the trials and tribulations of sports in the yard. We have dogs that run wild in our yard though, so they tear that up. All right, we're down to our last couple here. How about a barbecue, like a grill or a smoker?
Yeah, my wife has that. She has a Traeger, but it's like we have a back patio. We have like a covered patio.
Oh, gotcha.
Out the back, and it just stays on that.
Living nice. Keep it up there.
Forgive my ignorance. Are we fertilizing? Are we putting fertilizer on the grass?
Yes, like I will self-fertilize. I put down gypsum to help the absorb water better. Like yes, we mow once a week. We change the direction that we mow every fourth week, so it's lateral, vertical, diagonal. You don't mow the same lines every time.
I don't, but that's because I forget how I did it the first time, so I just constantly go in different directions.
Mine is so I go lateral, then vertical, then diagonal, then diagonal.
That's to make the roots strong, I imagine, because you're
and then also because like the same thing with like the ground is wet, and so like the track of the mower will eventually will cause indentions in your grass if you're always going the exact same line every single time. Plus, it just looks cool.
That's crazy. You're really into this yard thing, man.
That's intricate. It's intricate is what he meant to say.
I did not mean crazy. Pardon my French.
We don't lawn shame people when we invite them to play YIMBY or NIMBY, do we?
My bad. My bad on this.
My wife lawn shames me every single day. Like I'm like, I spend all this time on it, whatever, and she'll like reluctantly like, your lawn looks so nice, babe. And I'm like, I know you don't mean it. She does. I'm a words of affirmation love language. So she knows she's supposed to say it to me to make me feel better, but I can tell she's lying. So I'm like, it didn't help. It didn't work. Because I know you don't mean it.
If the words of affirmation are patronizing, are they still affirming?
All right. How about this one? Life-sized Allen Iverson statue.
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay.
So here's what I mean, because of anybody else, no, but Allen Iverson is my GOAT because that's who I grew up. He was my favorite player. And so because our games were so much the same in the way we played basketball. That is a joke for everybody. Couldn't be opposite. What does actually get put up in our yard is a blow up of the Grinch, I think, with the dog. What's the dog's name in the Grinch and all of that?
Max.
Yeah, it's like a 15-foot blow up whatever thing that sits there in the winter, and it has killed my grass from the winter, and it really pisses me off because I'm not much of a Christmas person, but it makes my kids happy, so I do it anyway.
Oh man, it shrinks his grass 3 sizes too small. The Grinch.
By the way, for not much of a Christmas person, you would have a Grinch blow up. That's on brand.
It's Randy. Royce said it's the Grinch stealing Christmas presents. He corrected me here as we're talking about this.
Yeah, well, get it right.
I gotta say, even as a Jewish person, shout out to the Jim Carrey "How the Grinch Stole Christmas" movie. That movie rocks.
It actually is a good movie. Yeah,
it's really incredible. So funny. Nikki,
well, we got one caveat. So you said life-size AI statue is fine. What if it was made by the same artist who created the Dwayne Wade statue? Does that change things?
B Bobbler, because B Bobbler made an example of me, a nobody in the world that looks just like me off a single picture. B Bobbler for your bobblehead needs. With all due respect to whoever made Dwayne Wade's, no.
thought that might be a deal breaker. And
I mean, I'm sure those people work really hard and they're really good at their job, and I'm trying not to be a jerk. But that, guys, when I think we were, I don't think we were live. It was before or after. When Sam showed me that, I literally couldn't come up with. I had no clue. I couldn't get it right. They had to tell me because I had no idea who it was.
Have you seen the commercials that are making fun of it, like the Mellow ads, where he's like getting the statue? Like there's entire like ads dedicated to how. Anyway, that it's no offense to the artist, it's a NIMBY. It's a NIMBY. It's not in your backyard.
If we're gonna disrespect AI, it's not gonna be in the grass.
I gotta give credit to Dwayne Wade though. He took that in stride and like.
Yes, he did. Good
what a sense of humor about it. Like,
who is that guy? Who is that guy?
So pro. So pro Wade because of that. Just like
the double meaning. Come on.
Incredible. Well, that's all we got for Yes My Backyard, No My Backyard. We've had you on for so long. Dude, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you give up all the places that people can find you outside of the places that we talked about. And also don't forget to, like and subscribe to both the Order of the Blazing Horse. We're here. Put on your notifications. We're free. We're easy. We're up to 78. We get to 100. That'd be great. We're trying to get there. It's free. Bryce, tell us about Motor City Hoops. Sorry to step on your promotion.
Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Motor City Hoops Substack, which is a collection of all of us. Harry does stuff. Mickey does stuff. I appreciate those guys more than they know for contributing over on the Substack. I really, really do appreciate them for that. And it's completely free over there for everything I do, for everything they do. The Pistons Pulse podcast with Amari Sankofa II. And then, of course, Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecini. Guys, I know I said at the top, I have so much fun. I always enjoy coming on and talking hoops and yards. And here's what's funny. My in-laws, I think the only episode they've ever listened to me podcast was our Harry Potter episode. Like, that's the only one they cared to listen to. So
were you sorted the Pistons?
Yes, where you guys had me sort the Pistons. Yeah. We did the sorting hat. So I love this so much. I thank you guys all the time for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
Dude, we love having you on. You're a breath of fresh air. So knowledgeable about the Pistons. Very fun. And I mean, when we're talking about unicorns, that's part of the Harry Potter lore too. We had to have you on to discuss that. Sucking out the blood of these unicorns, like Lord.
Very important part of the story. That's absolutely
very fun stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Mickey, you got anything you want to plug before we're here?
I don't. I'm ready to neigh. Ready to Winnie.
Let's pull it out then. We end the show the same way every episode, and that's by reading the acronym for the Blazing Horse, because it sounds like a horse would be saying that. So for everybody out there, I've been Harry.
And I'm Mickey.
And we got Bryce here in the house. And with that...